The topic of race parentage was a huge one between The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker. Fans had so many theories. Was she Rey Nobody? Was she a Kenobi? But it turns out she was a Palpatine, and in a new interview, Daisy Ridley was asked about it, and more specifically how from a certain point of view, The Rise of Skywalker retconned The Last Jedi. Daisy Ridley gave the best response, saying it's beyond her pay grade, but she did admit J.J. Abrams also wanted Rey to be a nobody. The Palpatine thing was very much a last-minute decision, but the message is that you can be a hero and not come from anywhere. It's not about your bloodline, not your parents, not your grandparents, and not the generations before you. And that was behind the controversial idea of her adopting the Skywalker name. But Daisy Ridley emphasized she's just an actor. She says, I say the words and do the thing. And over the last week, the big question of will Daisy return was put forward to her, and she left it open-ended. If they're doing post-Rise of Skywalker, which we do believe is going to be Damon Lindelof's movie, could she cameo in it? But today, guys, we're going to be talking about the politics in The Mandalorian Season 3, and we're going to finish with the Acolyte and the Andor show, so no more jibber jabber, let's dive straight into this. So last week in my breakdown for The Mandalorian's final trailer, I touched upon the importance of Carson Teva and his words. Paulson Hyunglee's character first appeared in The Mandalorian Season 2, and since, he's become so important to the Mandoverse, a staple of the Outer Rim under the New Republic. He famously recruited Cara Dune to be a marshal, and has had multiple encounters with Djarin, both on the Razor Crest and now his N1 starfighter. Carson Teva was last seen on the Book of Boba Fett, performing a patrol over Tatooine. Now he's back in The Mandalorian Season 3, and he may have started a new unit, or even gotten a new marshal, and there are a few hints, but before we get into those, Carson Teva has one of the most important lines in the trailer. He warns of an upcoming threat, impending danger, which we assume is in reference to the Imperial Remnant, and not Thrawn, which we're gonna see in the Ahsoka show. While Moff Gideon was in prison, Dr. Pershing, his unnamed comms officer, and others have been advancing his goals, maybe even the Sith Eternal. But whatever the case may be, I think Carson Teva in this scene is appealing to Chancellor Mon Mothma, or another New Republic superior, and warning them to take this threat seriously. In this way, they've set up a very important role for his future in the show, and as I mentioned earlier, we have hints of this in one frame. On his jacket we see a Rancor, which could be the symbolic emblem of his new squadron. Since the Rancor is a fearsome and powerful symbol in the Outer Rim, he might want his Rangers to represent the same kind of power when they're enforcing the law. Now there's another character we also associate with the Rancor, Boba Fett. Even though the Mythosaur is his emblem, he now owns a Rancor, and while it's a long shot to think that Boba Fett would join up with the New Republic, he might get involved. It might be part of his new role as crime boss, with the mantra of ruling with respect. Ever since Rangers of the New Republic was shelved, the assumption has been that Mando 3 and 4 are going to incorporate some of those plot threads, especially concerning the Imperial Remnant turning into the First Order. Kathleen Kennedy also hinted at this in 2021, and our Skeleton Crew and the Ahsoka show are going to do the same thing. Carson Teva was always meant to be a big part of that show after his conversation with Marshal Dune in Season 2. And now that the New Republic is starting to see a shift in the tide and things are not as secure as they assumed, this character is crucial going forward. And also, my dear Mandalorians, fun fact, apart from the Rancor, Carson Teva's jacket is identical to the one that Poe Dameron wears in The Last Jedi, much further down the timeline. Are they the same one? And did Poe's dad Kez, who knew Han and Leia and other members of the New Republic, wear a similar one as well? Could his dad appear in this show? Let's wait and see. Now this isn't the first time in The Mandalorian we've had allusions to Poe Dameron. Even though he's not around at this time, it's way too early in the timeline, or he's just a kid. This is from the concept art of Chapter 15, The Believer. This was probably one of the best episodes of the entire show, visually, in terms of the messaging, the politics, Bill Burr's performance as Migs Mayfeld, of course we saw a new planet, and this concept art by Ryan Church clearly has Oscar Isaac, right here on one of these pirate ships. I really love this episode. The concept art is just as beautiful as the episode itself. This one was directed by Rick Famuyiwa. It was also a great Boba episode. We had Slave 1, we saw the seismic charge. But going back to Carson Teva, I think he's going to face a lot of disagreements with other New Republic officers. We spoke about Mon Mothma, but others like Leia and Akbar as well. I think he's being set up as a tragic hero. The New Republic sees him as the boy who cried wolf, when in reality, he's warning about a serious threat. He knows the Outer Rim Rim, something seems off. There are breadcrumbs and clues that no one wants to hear about. Their arrogance makes them believe there are bigger things to think about, bigger fish to fry, but what's coming and what he's warning them about is what needs to be focused on. As we know from canon books from around this era, Mon Mothma was complacent. She didn't act soon enough when it came to warnings. The Imperial Remnant are ruthless, and throughout the reign of the New Republic, Imperial warlords have superiority when it came to military resources. They were working overtime on contingency plans, whereas the New Republic decided to do the opposite, demilitarize, their most awful mistake. Now, the Outer Rim is where several of these Imperial factions had a base. They were spread out, but a lot of them set up camp in these areas they knew the New Republic wouldn't take seriously. And as we saw in the book of Boba Fett, the New Republic officers were not as hands-on as they should have been when it came to policing there. Crime was high, and yet their presence was minute. And it's Carson Teva's squadron that patrols that region of the galaxy. So if anyone senses that something is wrong, that there are some things that need following up on, it's him and his crew. Now, during this time, Mon Mothma was very busy trying to convince the galaxy that this new government was best for them. But did you know that it'd be quite some time before the galaxy found out about the Emperor's death? It wasn't straight away. The Imperial Remnant installed an actor to play the role of Emperor Palpatine, but only some people could see through the facade. But inevitably over time, the truth of the Emperor's demise became known to the general galaxy. But ambitious Imperials announced their ascension to the Imperial throne almost every day, but it was just superficial. Masamida, the former aide of the Emperor, was the one who had all the power, and he embarked on the dangerous, almost impossible task of maintaining administrative military functions. So what I'm trying to say is, during the time period of The Mandalorian Season 3, the New Republic has a lot on their plate, a lot to deal with. Not to mention, with Moff Gideon soon breaking out of prison, the impending threat might be worse than they realise. Now, we don't know just how much of Season 3 is going to be occupied with the politics. It is a crucial aspect, but the primary focus is on Mandalore, Djarin, Bo-Katan, the Darksaber, and Mando's redemption, so this might be brief, but I do think they're setting up something vital in the way of the downfall of the New Republic that could be explored in another spin-off. We might get bits and pieces of it here and there, maybe some in Skeleton Crew, as I say, the Ahsoka show, Mando Season 3, and future seasons of the series as well. We cannot underestimate just how important this is to the plot, and if someday they do decide to do an iteration of Rangers of the New Republic, I would love for Carson Teva to be the lead. I think he's more than talented as an actor to take on that responsibility. He would be amazing as the lead in a series. But I'm very curious as to the setup of the third season. How is it going to be organised? Is it going to be rather linear? Are we going to have some episodes that take on different plot threads? Is it going to be like the book of Boba Fett, where 2 episodes go in a completely different direction? There is some major talent in this one, so I do trust the process and the creatives. Their vision, the producers, as always, are amazing. Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni co-wrote most of it. We're in for a treat. And so now, my dear friends, we have a very interesting tidbit for the Acolyte, because the main star Amandla Stenberg recently teased the upcoming Star Wars show's practical creatures and elaborate sets. We often talk about there not being enough aliens in Star Wars. Well, I think the Acolyte is going to give us that. We know there's going to be a Wookiee Jedi, a few other species, maybe Yoda, let's wait and see, but also a species who attacks the homeworld of the Padawan. In a new interview with comicbook.com, Stenberg said that she was in awe at the technical ability on display when she finally arrived on set. She also praises the volume. Here is the full quote: "What can I say that won't get me fired? Walking onto set, I'll just say this is vague enough. You know that it must take a lot of technical ability and craftsmanship to make Star Wars, but you have no clue how expansive it is until you're part of it, whether it's the puppeteers, the costume designers, or all of the folks from all of the different departments who build the sets. You don't realize how much incredible technology and foresight there is in every element until you're there." Filming is still underway here in the UK at Shinfield Studios, but details are still tightly under wraps. We did have a few leaks, a few rumours, which to this day are a bit questionable, but we do know that it's High Republic, the first major High Republic live-action show, and as I was saying to my good buddy Star Wars Santa the other day, there will come a point we can no longer ignore the High Republic, because Kathleen Kennedy wants to do more with it, not just in the show, but also the video game Star Wars Eclipse, and also future movies, so it is an era that's going to take the forefront in the future. And so finally, my dear friends, just something a little bit different. In the community tab, I put a poll to you guys. Who was your favourite new rebel in the Andor show? Overwhelmingly, people voted for Luthen, 79%. Then we had 8% for Marva, 7% for Karis Nemec, 4% for Sintra and Vel, and 2% for Clea. Now I will remind you this is only new rebels, but the reason I do these polls is twofold, not just to get a consensus, but to also hear your thoughts in the comments. I always read them, I love hearing other fans' perspectives. This community is based on that, discussion, dialogue, different points of view, and all of them are valid. But I'm not surprised Luthen won so overwhelmingly. In my opinion, Stellan Skarsgård had one of the best performances. But I also want to announce I am making an Andor video at the moment, a very special one which focuses on the rebellion side of things, how the show changed our perception of the Rebel Alliance, early rebels before the Alliance who made such a difference. I'm also going to touch upon the politics, the anti-fascist, anti-empire message, and each rebel who made such a difference. I can't wait to share that with you guys. But with that said, my dear friends, that brings us to the end of today's Star Wars news update. If you enjoyed this one, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and if you want more videos you can't find here on YouTube while also getting your name at the end of my videos, then click the link down there in the description. But until the next one guys, may the Force be with you always.